My jealous sister ruined my relationship. So, I caught her cheating and exposed everything to our parents. Hey Reddit, my name's Josh, I'm 28, and I'm dealing with some major family drama that I never thought I'd be airing out on the internet. But here we are, and I need to get this off my chest. My older sister, Anna, 30, has always been the golden child, smart, pretty, and always ahead of me in every way. But she's also manipulative, jealous, and constantly trying to sabotage anything good in my life. Anna's latest move? She ruined my relationship with my girlfriend, Brooke, out of spite. She spread lies, stirred up drama, and did everything she could to drive a wedge between us. But karma finally came for her when I caught her cheating on her husband and exposed everything to our parents. This is how it all went down, from growing up in Anna's shadow to the moment I finally decided enough was enough. Growing up, Anna and I had a strained relationship from the start. She was always the center of attention, the perfect daughter who excelled in school, sports, and just about everything she touched. Our parents, especially my mom, put her on a pedestal. They were always bragging about her grades, her dance recitals, her cheerleading competitions, you name it. Anna was the golden child, and I was the quiet kid who never seemed to measure up. My parents were old-school traditionalists who believed in the clear divide between girls and boys. Anna was raised to be the high-achieving, beautiful daughter who'd marry well, while I was supposed to be the hard-working son who'd follow in my dad's footsteps, working a stable job, and settling down with the perfect wife. But I was never interested in the things they wanted for me. While Anna thrived on socializing, winning trophies, and being the best at everything, I was drawn to art, video games, and my own quiet world of creativity. Anna's need to compete wasn't just confined to school or sports. She had a knack for making everything into a competition, and it didn't matter if the stakes were high or low, she had to come out on top. I remember one Christmas when I was around 10 and she was 12, we were opening presents, and I got a new set of drawing supplies, something I'd been asking for all year. I was thrilled, but Anna quickly turned the focus back on herself, loudly boasting about how she'd gotten an iPod, a way more grown-up gift. She even went as far as to comment, "Maybe next year you'll get something cool too, Josh." My parents just laughed it off, not realizing how much her words stung. Anna always knew how to twist the knife in subtle ways, making me feel small without ever appearing outright cruel to anyone else. She was the queen of backhanded compliments and subtle digs, and it always seemed like no one else noticed. In high school, things got worse. Anna was the quintessential popular girl, captain of the cheerleading squad, homecoming queen, and dating the star quarterback. She was adored by teachers, coaches, and pretty much everyone else at our school. Meanwhile, I was the quiet kid who stuck to the art room, gaming club, and a small circle of friends who didn't care much for the social hierarchy. Anna and I rarely crossed paths at school, but when we did, she made sure to remind me of where I stood in the pecking order. She'd make snide comments about my loser friends or tease me for not having a girlfriend. There was this one time during a school assembly where Anna loudly pointed me out to her cheer squad, saying, "That's my little brother, the art nerd," as if I was some sort of embarrassing family secret. My parents, of course, saw no harm in it. They'd tell me I should be proud of Anna's accomplishments and that I should look up to her as a role model. But it was hard to look up to someone who constantly looked down on me. I spent most of my teenage years feeling like the black sheep of the family, always in Anna's shadow, never quite good enough, and always compared to her in ways that made me feel small. When it came time for college, Anna got into a prestigious university on a cheerleading scholarship, and my parents couldn't have been prouder. They threw her a huge graduation party, complete with banners, catered food, and all her friends and family. I remember standing in the corner, trying to be happy for her, but feeling invisible in a sea of Anna's admirers. My parents kept telling me that I should aim for something similar, that I should shoot for the stars like Anna did, but I had no interest in following her path. I ended up going to a local community college, which my parents barely acknowledged. It was like they couldn't muster up the same enthusiasm for my achievements, no matter how hard I tried. I studied graphic design, something I was passionate about, but it was clear that my parents saw it as a fallback plan, a way for me to get by until I figured out something real to do with my life. Anna graduated college with honors, landed a high-paying job in corporate marketing, and got engaged to Mark, her college boyfriend who came from a wealthy family. They had a big, fancy wedding with all the bells and whistles, Anna in a designer dress, Mark in a tailored tux, and my parents beaming with pride. Anna's life was everything they'd ever dreamed of for her, and I was just the kid who drew cartoons and played video games. I'd be lying if I said I didn't resent Anna. She had everything handed to her, while I had to fight for every ounce of recognition. But what bothered me the most was her constant need to belittle me, to remind me that I was always one step behind. No matter how much I tried to carve out my own path, Anna always found a way to undermine it, making me feel like I'd never be good enough. Everything started to change when I met Brooke. I was 26 and still feeling stuck in a rut, working a decent but uninspiring job as a graphic designer. My life felt stagnant, same routine, same expectations, and the constant pressure of living up to my family's idea of success. Then Brooke walked into my life, and suddenly, things felt different. We met at a mutual friend's party on a warm summer evening. I wasn't planning on going, but my buddy Eric dragged me along, saying I needed to get out of my apartment and have some fun for once. I'm glad he did because that's where I saw Brooke, laughing at a joke someone told and looking like the most beautiful person in the room. She had long dark hair, bright blue eyes, and a smile that made her entire face light up. I was instantly drawn to her, but I never imagined she'd be interested in someone like me. We ended up chatting over a couple of beers, bonding over our love for movies, indie music, and bad reality TV. Brooke was refreshingly real. She didn't have any of the pretense or superficiality that I was used to seeing in my sister's circle. She was down-to-earth, witty, and had this easygoing vibe that put me at ease immediately. I found out she worked as a teacher at a nearby elementary school, a job she loved despite the challenges, and she spoke about her students with a kind of passion and dedication that was contagious. We exchanged numbers that night, and it wasn't long before we started dating. Our relationship felt effortless, no games, no drama, just two people genuinely enjoying each other's company. Brooke wasn't just beautiful, she was supportive, understanding, and had a way of making me feel seen in a way I never had before. She loved my art, encouraged my ambitions, and never once made me feel like I had to be anything other than myself. Brooke had her own set of struggles growing up. Raised by a single mom who worked multiple jobs, Brooke had to learn how to be independent at a young age. She worked her way through college, juggling part-time jobs and a full course load, and eventually became the first person in her family to earn a degree. She wasn't someone who'd had everything handed to her, and that made me respect her even more. She was tough, resilient, and she knew what it meant to work hard for what you wanted. We moved in together after a year of dating, finding a small but cozy apartment that we made our own. We spent our weekends exploring the city, cooking together, or just cuddling on the couch with our dog, a rescue mutt named Milo. For the first time, I felt like I was building a life that was mine, not one dictated by my parents or overshadowed by Anna. I was happy, and I wanted my family to be happy for me too. But when I introduced Brooke to my family, it didn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped. My parents were polite, but I could see the judgment in their eyes. They asked Brooke all the usual questions: where she was from, what she did for a living, what her family was like, and I could tell they were mentally checking off boxes, comparing her to Anna. Brooke handled it with grace, answering their questions with her usual warmth and honesty, but I could see the doubt flickering in my parents' expressions. And then there was Anna. She was polite at first, putting on her fake smile and acting like she was interested in getting to know Brooke. But it didn't take long for the snide remarks to start. Anna had this way of turning even the simplest conversation into an interrogation, and she was quick to point out anything she deemed inferior about Brooke. She'd make backhanded compliments about Brooke's job, questioning why she chose teaching when it barely paid the bills. She'd subtly criticize our apartment, our choice of decor, and even our plans for the future, always finding a way to make Brooke feel small. One night, after a particularly rough family dinner, Brooke finally opened up to me about how much Anna's comments were bothering her. "I just feel like she's trying to find fault in everything I do," Brooke said, her voice tinged with frustration. "It's like nothing's ever good enough." I tried to reassure her, telling her that Anna was just being Anna and that it didn't matter what she thought. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. Anna's disapproval had a way of seeping into every part of my life, and it was hard not to let it affect us. I hated seeing Brooke upset, and I hated even more that my sister had that kind of power over us. Brooke and I started to pull back from family gatherings, choosing to spend our time with friends who appreciated us for who we were. We'd still see my parents occasionally, but I tried to limit our interactions with Anna. It wasn't easy, my family was tight-knit, and skipping out on events felt like I was breaking some unspoken rule. But I was determined to protect Brooke from Anna's toxicity, even if it meant creating some distance. As Brooke and I grew closer, Anna's behavior only got worse. She was relentless in her attempts to undermine our relationship, always finding new ways to stir up drama and make Brooke feel unwelcome. But the final straw came when Brooke and I started planning a weekend getaway to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. We'd saved up for months, booking a cozy cabin in the mountains where we could unwind, hike, and just enjoy some time away from the stress of everyday life. I was excited. It felt like a chance for us to reconnect and leave all the family drama behind, even if just for a few days. But as soon as Anna found out about the trip, she started meddling. She called me out of the blue, acting concerned and asking intrusive questions about our plans. "Are you sure this is a good idea, Josh?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. "I mean, spending all that money on a trip when you're still figuring things out career-wise? Seems risky." I tried to brush her off, telling her that Brooke and I had everything under control, but Anna wouldn't let it go. She started sending me articles about financial planning, warning me about the dangers of wasting money on vacations and relationships that might not last. It was infuriating, but I did my best to ignore her. I knew Anna was just trying to get under my skin, and I wasn't about to let her ruin this for us. But Anna didn't stop there. A week before our trip, Brooke called me, clearly upset. "I just got a message from Anna," she said, her voice trembling. "She said you've been talking to her about canceling the trip because you're worried about money. She made it sound like you didn't even want to go." I was stunned. I hadn't said anything like that to Anna, and I couldn't believe she'd gone behind my back to stir up trouble. I tried to explain to Brooke that Anna was lying, that I had no intention of canceling, but the damage was done. Brooke was hurt, feeling blindsided and betrayed, and Anna's manipulation had planted a seed of doubt that I couldn't easily erase. We ended up having a massive fight, one that felt like it had been brewing for months. Brooke accused me of not being honest with her, of letting Anna get in the way of our relationship, and of putting my family's approval above her feelings. I felt torn between defending myself and apologizing for something I hadn't even done, and no matter what I said, it felt like I couldn't fix the rift that Anna had created. In the end, we canceled the trip. Brooke said she needed time to think, and I couldn't blame her. Anna had driven a wedge between us that I didn't know how to overcome, and our once solid relationship now felt fragile and uncertain. We spent the next few weeks in a state of limbo, barely talking, avoiding each other's gaze, and pretending that everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. A month later, Brooke broke up with me. She said she couldn't handle the constant drama with my family, that she needed to focus on herself, and that it wasn't fair to keep dragging things out when we were both clearly unhappy. I was heartbroken. Brooke had been my rock, the person who made me feel like I was enough, and now she was gone, all because of Anna's relentless interference. I tried to move on, but I couldn't shake the anger I felt toward my sister. She'd ruined the best thing that had ever happened to me, and she didn't even seem to care. Every time I saw her, she'd get this smug look on her face, like she'd won some kind of twisted game. Our parents were oblivious, telling me that relationships are tough and that I'd find someone else. But I knew better. I knew that Anna had done this on purpose, and I couldn't let it go. After the breakup, I threw myself into work, spending long hours at the office to avoid thinking about Brooke. I took on extra projects, volunteered for overtime, and tried to lose myself in the creative process. But every time I came home, the silence of my apartment was a painful reminder of what I'd lost. I missed Brooke, and I hated that Anna had gotten exactly what she wanted. But then, life threw Anna a curveball she never saw coming. I'd always known that Anna's perfect life wasn't quite as flawless as she liked to portray. She and Mark had their fair share of issues, nothing too unusual for a married couple, but enough that I'd noticed the tension whenever they were around. Mark worked long hours, traveling frequently for his job, and Anna often complained about feeling like a single mom when he was away. I'd heard snippets of their arguments at family gatherings, usually about money or how much time Mark spent at the office. But Anna was always careful to present a united front, making sure everyone saw them as the perfect, happy couple. One night, after a particularly grueling week at work, I decided to hit up a local bar with some friends. We were just blowing off steam, enjoying a few beers and catching up, when I noticed Anna sitting in a corner booth. She wasn't alone. She was with a man I didn't recognize, tall, dark-haired, and definitely not Mark. They were sitting close, talking and laughing in a way that felt far too intimate for just friends. At first, I thought I must be seeing things wrong. Maybe it was just a harmless meetup, or maybe Mark was out of town and Anna was catching up with an old friend. But as I watched them, it became clear that this was something more. They were holding hands under the table, their bodies angled toward each other in a way that screamed chemistry. And then, as if to erase any doubt, Anna leaned in and kissed him. I felt my stomach drop. This was Anna, the same Anna who constantly judged everyone else, who prided herself on being perfect, and who never missed an opportunity to criticize me and Brooke. And here she was, blatantly cheating on her husband in a crowded bar, acting like she had nothing to lose. I knew I needed proof. Anna was the queen of denial, and I wasn't about to let her weasel her way out of this one. I discreetly snapped a few photos on my phone, capturing every damning moment: Anna holding the guy's hand, Anna whispering in his ear, Anna kissing him like there was no tomorrow. It was a smoking gun, and I knew it was only the tip of the iceberg. But I didn't confront her, not yet. I wanted more. I spent the next few weeks quietly digging into Anna's secret life, keeping tabs on her social media, and watching for any signs that she was sneaking around. It wasn't hard. Anna was sloppy, and her carelessness made it easy to catch her in the act. I followed her a few times, watching as she met up with the same guy at hotels, fancy restaurants, and once even at the park, where they sat on a bench like love-struck teenagers. I kept documenting everything, building a case that was impossible to refute. Screenshots of their texts, photos of their meetups, and even a couple of videos where they were clearly more than just friends. It was undeniable, and I felt a mix of satisfaction and disgust every time I added another piece of evidence to the folder on my phone. When I finally had enough, I knew exactly what I was going to do. It was a sunny Sunday afternoon, and my parents had invited everyone over for a family lunch, a classic gathering that Anna never missed, mainly because she loved showing off her perfect life. I arrived a little early, armed with all the evidence I'd gathered, and waited for the right moment. Anna showed up with Mark and the kids, wearing her usual smile and acting like everything was perfectly normal. She was all charm and small talk, completely oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. After lunch, while everyone was sitting in the living room, I cleared my throat and said I had something important to share. My parents looked at me curiously, but Anna's smile wavered. She knew me well enough to sense that something was off, but she had no idea what was coming. Anna, I think it's time everyone knows what you've been up to, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. The room went silent. Anna's eyes widened as I pulled out my phone and opened the folder with all the evidence. I started with the photos: Anna and her mystery man at the bar, their cozy dinners, the park bench rendezvous. Mark's face went pale, his eyes fixed on the screen as he saw his wife with another man. My parents were stunned, their expressions shifting from confusion to shock as the truth sank in. Anna leaped from her seat, trying to grab my phone. "Josh, stop this. This isn't what it looks like." But it was too late. I laid it all out for everyone to see: the texts, the hotel receipts, the undeniable proof that Anna had been cheating on Mark for months. My parents were horrified, my dad yelling at Anna to explain herself, while Mark sat in stunned silence, staring at his wife like he was seeing her for the first time. Anna tried to defend herself, her voice breaking as she spewed excuses about how her marriage had been falling apart and how she'd felt trapped and unloved. But no one was buying it. The perfect image she'd worked so hard to maintain was shattered, and all that was left was the raw truth of her lies. I turned to Anna, feeling a surge of vindication. "You've spent your whole life tearing people down, judging everyone around you, and pretending you're better than the rest of us. But you're not. You're a liar, a cheat, and now everyone knows the real you." Anna's tears flowed freely, but there was no sympathy left in the room. Mark looked devastated, my parents were furious, and Anna's carefully constructed facade was crumbling around her. She'd spent years manipulating everyone, and now she was finally facing the consequences. I left the house without looking back, my head held high. I knew that what I'd done was drastic, but it felt like justice. Anna had ruined my relationship, torn apart my happiness, and now it was her turn to deal with the fallout. The aftermath of that day was a family implosion like I'd never seen. Anna moved out of her house, taking the kids with her while Mark started the process of filing for divorce. Their marriage was over, and the once perfect couple was now embroiled in a bitter separation that played out in front of everyone. Mark, who'd always seemed so put together, was now a shell of his former self. He was blindsided, humiliated, and heartbroken by Anna's betrayal. My parents were in shock. They'd always believed Anna could do no wrong, and the revelation of her affair hit them hard. My dad was furious, yelling at Anna every time they spoke, demanding to know why she'd thrown away her family. My mom, who'd always been Anna's biggest supporter, was devastated. She tried to comfort Anna, but even she couldn't hide her disappointment. The golden child had fallen, and the illusion of Anna's perfect life was gone. Anna, predictably, tried to shift the blame onto me. She told everyone who would listen that I was the real villain, that I'd set out to destroy her out of spite and jealousy. She refused to take responsibility for her actions, instead spinning a narrative that painted her as the victim of my vendetta. She called me every name in the book, vindictive, petty, heartless, and swore that she'd never forgive me for what I'd done. But the more Anna lashed out, the more isolated she became. Our extended family, who'd always seen Anna as the epitome of success, were shocked by the scandal. They couldn't believe that the perfect daughter, wife, and mother had been leading a double life. I started getting calls and messages from relatives who wanted to know the full story, and while I didn't take pleasure in airing our dirty laundry, I didn't hold back either. I told them the truth, that Anna had ruined my relationship, that she'd lied and manipulated everyone around her, and that she was finally facing the consequences of her actions. Meanwhile, Mark and I grew closer. It was an odd friendship born out of shared betrayal, but we found comfort in each other's company. Mark was struggling, trying to piece together what was left of his life, and I did my best to be there for him. We'd meet up for drinks, talk about everything from work to the mess Anna had created, and slowly but surely, Mark started to rebuild. He moved into a new apartment, threw himself into his career, and began to focus on what made him happy. Anna's life, on the other hand, was in shambles. She was living in a cramped rental, juggling work, the kids, and the fallout of her affair. She was forced to confront the reality that her actions had consequences, and for the first time, she couldn't talk her way out of it. She tried to reconnect with her old friends, but many of them had distanced themselves, unwilling to get caught up in her drama. She was no longer the queen bee, the perfect wife, or the golden child. She was just Anna, flawed, fallible, and facing a future that was far from the fairy tale she'd once projected. As for me, I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in years. Exposing Anna hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary. I'd spent my entire life feeling like I was stuck in her shadow, constantly compared, belittled, and made to feel like I was never enough. But now, I was finally free of her influence. I could live my life on my own terms, without the constant weight of Anna's judgment hanging over me. It's been almost a year since I exposed Anna, and things are slowly falling into place. Mark finalized the divorce and has been focusing on building a new life for himself. He's dating again, cautiously testing the waters, and it's great to see him smiling more. We've remained good friends, and he's thanked me more than once for being honest with him, even if the truth was painful. My parents are still struggling to come to terms with everything. They've tried to support Anna, but it's clear that their image of her has been irreparably damaged. My dad, in particular, has a hard time looking at Anna the same way, and their once close relationship has grown distant. My mom still tries to play peacemaker, urging us all to move on and forgive, but I've made it clear that forgiveness isn't something I'm ready to offer. Anna and I haven't spoken since that day, and I'm okay with that. Brooke and I have reconnected as well. It took time, but we were finally able to sit down and have an honest conversation about everything that happened. Brooke told me how much Anna's interference had hurt her, how she'd felt manipulated and betrayed, and how hard it had been to walk away from our relationship. I apologized for not standing up to Anna sooner, for letting her get between us, and for not protecting what we had. Slowly, we've started to rebuild our friendship, and while we're not officially back together, we're closer than we've been in a long time. In the months since, I've thrown myself into self-improvement. I started therapy, something I'd always been hesitant about, but it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. I'm learning to let go of the anger, to set healthy boundaries, and to not let other people's opinions dictate my self-worth. It's been a long road, but I'm making progress, one step at a time. I've also reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I'd neglected, and started to focus on my own happiness. I'm no longer trying to prove myself to anyone, not my parents, not Anna, and not even myself. I'm just living, enjoying the little moments, and appreciating the people who genuinely care about me. Anna, on the other hand, is still struggling. She's trying to find her footing, balancing work, single motherhood, and the fallout of her actions. She's lost a lot of her old friends, and she's still angry at me, blaming me for everything that's gone wrong. But I've realized that Anna's anger isn't my burden to bear. I've spent too long carrying the weight of her expectations, her judgment, and her manipulations, and I'm done with it. I know that what I did was drastic, and I know that some people might think I went too far. But for me, it was about finally standing up for myself and refusing to let Anna control my life any longer. It was about reclaiming my voice, my self-worth, and my right to live without constantly being overshadowed by someone else's drama. To anyone out there dealing with toxic family dynamics, just remember, you don't owe anyone your peace of mind. It's okay to set boundaries, to stand up for yourself, and to walk away from relationships that bring you nothing but pain. Family doesn't give anyone the right to treat you poorly, and sometimes, the best thing you can do is say enough is enough. Update, the aftermath. OP, my jealous sister ruined my relationship. So, I caught her cheating and exposed everything to our parents. Hey everyone, I'm back with an update. I've read through all your comments and messages, and I want to thank you for the support and the tough love. It's been a difficult journey, but I've learned a lot about myself and what I'm willing to tolerate. Anna and I still aren't speaking, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I've realized that I need to focus on my own happiness, and sometimes that means cutting out the people who bring you down. Brooke and I are doing much better. We're taking things slow, rebuilding the trust that was broken, and just enjoying being in each other's company again. Whether we get back together or not, I'm just glad to have her in my life without all the chaos that Anna brought. As for Anna, she's got her own mess to deal with, and I'm letting her handle it on her own. I've done my part, and now it's up to her to figure out how to move forward. I don't regret exposing her. I needed to take back control of my life, and I hope that one day, Anna will find her own way to make amends, not just with others, but with herself. Thanks again, Reddit. You've helped me see things more clearly, and your support means more than you know.